Apartheid Security Police officers were among the first on the scene when struggle stalwart Imam Abdullah Haron died. It's according to the last remaining apartheid-era police officer tasked with guarding Haron, who continued his testimony in the Western Cape High Court today. Johannes Burger, however, says that he wasn't aware of Haron's torture in police custody until decades later. Our reporter Natalie Malgas is following that inquiry. She joins me live. Natalie, of course, it really all is going to be about probability. Given this is somebody who was tasked with personally guarding Haron, what are the probabilities that he simply would not have been aware of the injuries he had sustained and how he sustained them?
Well, that was one of a few really pointed questions that counsel representing the Haron family had put to retired Captain Johannes Burger, Kathy, that they almost find this far-fetched, that he wasn't aware of this elite unit and their torturous tactics that they were carrying out, particularly over a 3-day period when the Imam had movements that were unaccounted for. The security branch had allegedly come down to the Maitland police station, taken him away for about 3 days. When he returned, he came back a very different man, Burger says, from what he encountered early in the 2 weeks that he knew the Imam. Initially, he summed the Imam up to be an active, jovial person who spoke often. They spoke regularly. He went to great lengths to stress this friendly and cordial relationship that they enjoyed. But towards the end of his life, which we now know were the dying days of his life, his mood had deteriorated, his health had deteriorated, and there were many instances where he was in a great deal of pain. Burger stopped just short of taking any responsibility for his part in the Imam's demise. As I mentioned, he spent some time breaking down in the stand, stressing about this friendly relationship that they had, speaking about each other's families and taking an interest in each other's lives. But no matter how trivial or significant a role Burger played in the death of the Imam, he doesn't take responsibility for anything. In fact, he also didn't want to undermine or compromise the integrity of his old colleagues or the system that he had ascribed to by laying any blame at their feet, and except to say he thinks the court has a good enough idea of the so-called independence of the special branch that they were able to swoop in and move political detainees around as they wish without having to answer to anyone. In fact, this was what he had to say a little earlier while testifying in this inquiry.
Is that the impression that we are left with when we look at all those facts is that the security branch were attempting to keep the Imam away from a doctor over that period. Would you agree that that's a reasonable impression to deduct from the circumstances?
Ek kan nie ja of nee antwoord nie. Ek moet meer op 'n breër manier antwoord.
My Lord, I can't answer yes or no. I then have to elaborate.
En ongelukkig moet ek die kolonel weer inbring hierso.
Unfortunately, then I also have to bring in the colonel in again.
Ek kan verstaan hoekom miskien dit so was.
I can understand why it was like that.
Want nadat ek die diagram gesien het van die lijkskouing wat die kolonel my gewys het.
After I saw the diagram that was shown to me by the colonel,
as ek onder die indruk, my eie opinie,
I was under the impression with my own opinion,
dat hoe minder mense weet van sy beserings, dat nou 'n dokter is wat hoe beter was het.
The lesser people that knew about his injuries, it was better for them.
Dis al wat ek kan sê.
That's all I can say.
According to the evidence of the two forensic pathologists who testified before his lordship last week, those yellow and green bruising were the product of blunt force injury, employing considerable force in their view. And to add, the red bruises in the view of both Dr. Malefe and Dr. Naidu, would, in their view, probably have been caused due to stamping or kicking on the Imam as he lay immobile on the floor of his cell.
Ek dink ek sal vir myself leed aandoen of tekort. Ek kan nie die Here se woorde nie betwyfel nie.
My Lord, I think I was selling myself short, but I can't doubt the defense words.
Ek het sulke beserings ook gehad in my dae.
I also had such injuries or bruises in my days.
En soos ek nou omtrent so 'n paar minute terug gesê het, my omstandighede van seer kry, moet ek 'n ongeluk geval, rugby enige ding.
As I've explained a few minutes ago that I got I got injuries because of playing rugby and also being in a car crash or in a car accident.
Of beklei.
Or even fighting.
All right, so you can expect more from that inquiry, and our reporter Natalie Malgas will be staying with it. Stephen?